among my brothers and sisters in the labor movement. Highway and transit construction accounts for about 75% of jobs for laborers in this country. The unions have underscored in meetings all over Ohio, they don't want unemployment. They don't want unemployment. They want jobs. And they can't understand why Congress is hell-bent to push a climate bill that will put more of them out of work rather than a reauthorization of the Surface Transportation Act. Why aren't we spending our time on reauthorization of the Surface Transportation? Why are we spending so much time on cap and trade? Mr. President, I'd like to share with you some stories everyday people on Main Street have to say. Lori Soggs with the Cleveland Building and Construction Trades Council, which represents more than 17,000 union workers in Northeast Ohio, said workers are not seeing much of a spike in jobs, and unemployment figures range from 20% in some trades to 40% in other trades, such as the electricians. In Cincinnati, Ohio, Matt Brennan, CEO of Loveland Excavating, Inc., says that his company's sales are down 53%. His workforce is down 55%, and worker salaries are down 25 to 35% due to the lack of overtime. He has seen numerous projects abandoned due to lack of funding. Banks are calling lines of credit for credit-worthy contractors. There are no lending sources available. Many contractors are failing and closing their doors. That's happening all over. And this is not occurring in my state, but as I say, across the country. Mr. Hammock, president of C.W. Matthews Contracting Company, one of the largest road construction companies in Georgia, said the ripple effect of the delay of a reauthorization bill has already reached firms like his. His company has already laid off 700 of its 2,000 employees since 2007 because of the recession. Now the delay in passage of the transportation reauthorization bill and the dearth of state contracts means he's planning to lay off as many as 200 more employees by the end of the year. He said, you can't proceed under business as normal when there's no direction out there. It's too dangerous to bet on the future and put your company in financial jeopardy. He said the administration's stimulus package, while a positive shot, hasn't provided long-term help for the heavy construction companies such as his. The stimulus package, at least as it relates to Georgia, isn't putting the heavy equipment to work that moves dirt, he said. It's not a sustainable cure for what ails the transportation industry. Paul Campbell, who's the executive vice president of Weeder Manufacturing, Machinery, a Caterpillar dealer in Salt Lake City, said Utah's contract work has ground to a standstill. He said there's a trickle down when you mess with infrastructure. It has freezing effect on everything. And to his firm, it's meant 221 layoffs. He's considering laying off more among his 629 employees left. There's very little private money going into any kind of construction, Mr. Campbell said. You take the federal contracts out of that, and it gets a whole lot worse really quick. We need a reauthorization of the transportation bill. States are facing the most difficult financial situation in 50 years. And this year, in spite of the stimulus, 21 states have indicated that they would be forced to reduce spending in transportation. Now, reauthorization, Mr. President, is a 3-4. First, it's jobs, jobs, jobs. This bill will give confidence and certainty to an industry that's struggling right now. Recently, a contractor testified before the EPW committee on how a long-term bill will provide certainty to the transportation industry. Here's what he said. Failure to pass a multi-year transportation bill creates significant market uncertainty. The uncertainty makes it difficult to hold on to valued employees. It makes it hard to convince subcontractors to work for us. It makes it hard to convince lenders to invest in us. And when there is an inconsistent flow of federal funding, state agencies hold up the release of projects that are ready to bid and construct. Second, a reauthorization bill will be good for our competitive position in terms of our economy and infrastructure. Our nation's transportation needs exceed current investment at all levels. According to the Department of Transportation, the annual investment level needed to maintain the current condition and performance of our highway system is $105.6 billion, while the cost to improve our highways and bridges would be another $174.6 billion. And the bridges, they're in terrible shape. How many more Minneapolis I-35 bridges are lurking out there? The last reauthorization bill, Safety Lou, created the National Surface Transportation Policy and Revenue Study Commission to study our infrastructure needs. This commission came back. We called for the commission to give us straight facts. The commission called for investments of at least $225 billion annually over the next 50 years at all levels of government to bring our existing transportation infrastructure to a good state of repair and support our growing economy. Third, a reauthorization bill will help our environment. Transportation contributes almost 30% of the greenhouse gas emissions that we have in this country. This figure really blows my mind. The average length of time that urban areas experience congested condition amounts to 6.4 hours each day. Anyone that travels here in Washington understands what that's about. Vehicles caught in stop-and-go traffic emit far more emissions than they do without frequent acceleration and braking. In recent years, drivers have experienced over 4.2 billion hours of delay. Traffic congestion is also responsible for 2.9 billion gallons of fuel wasted each year. Wasted fuel and lost productivity due to traffic congestion cost the U.S. economy over $78 billion annually. Think about that, $78 billion annually. A reauthorization bill is needed to reduce congestion and consequently to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. A study recently prepared for the Federal Highway Administration found that bottlenecks on the nation's highway system caused by congested intersections, poor highway operations, inadequate capacity, and poor alignments impose 243 million hours of delay on truck shipments, with direct costs of the delays totaling $7.8 billion per year. According to the American Transportation Association, miles traveled nationwide were off 17% last year. The average miles per truck were down 20%. In other words, truck drivers are allowed to only work so many hours. They can only go, they have X number of miles that they can go. And because of the congestion that we have here in our country today, they're getting almost 20% less mileage covered because of the congestion that they encounter all over this country. This is a great time to invest in infrastructure. We will get a better bang for our buck. Because of the economy today, the return on infrastructure investment is better than in recent years. Over the years, we saw Safety Lou money kind of dwindle because of the high cost of oil. We saw also the high cost of steel. But because of the economy, project bids are coming in extremely low. In fact, in Ohio, bids have been up to 30% lower. So what a time to invest. We're really going to get a return on our investment. The gas tax. I want you to know that I'm not talking about borrowing the money for the reauthorization of the surface transportation bill like we do for everything else around here. That's what the American people are really very, very upset about. Spend and borrow the money. The American people, as I say, are fed up because they're concerned with the deficit and budgets not being balanced as far as the eye can see. We will not have to charge our kids' and grandkids' credit card. We can pay for this by increasing the gas tax, which has not been increased since 1993. The fact is that Americans are willing to pay an increase in the gas tax to create jobs, improve our infrastructure, and better the climate. And many of my conservative colleagues do not consider the gas tax as a tax but a user fee. The Safety Lou created National Surface Transportation Infrastructure Finance Commission recommends that Congress enact a 10-cent increase in the federal gasoline tax and a 15-cent increase in the federal diesel tax to just maintain our infrastructure. I remember I was mayor. President Reagan was faced with a similar situation with the economy in 1982 when we were facing record unemployment, about 10%. I remember that well. As I say, I was mayor of the city of Cleveland. We had 20% unemployment in Cleveland. During the lame duck session, the Reagan administration proposed a gas tax increase, and subsequently, Congress passed the Surface Transportation Assistance Act of 1982, which provided a 5-cent gas tax increase. The American people think they're already paying increased gas taxes. In 2009, Building America's Future conducted a poll which found that 60%, that's Ed Rendell's group, Governor Ed Rendell of Pennsylvania, they found that 60% of Americans believe that the federal gas tax has been increased every year. But as you know, the gas tax has not been indexed to inflation, so its purchasing power has declined by 33% since it was last increased in 1993. You know, I've been meeting with groups since March of last year, a year ago this last March. They desperately want a reauthorization bill, and they're willing to pay an increase in the gas tax. Groups that in the past have never accepted such an increase. Listen to this: the Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers, the American Truckers, Bill Graves, head of the Truckers, International Union of Operating Engineers, Laborers International, Association of General Contractors, National League of Cities, National Association of Economies, American Public Transit Association, to name a few, and there are many more. And Mr. President, I want to insert a list of all the groups that support increasing the gas tax. It is an unbelievable group. The League of American Bicycles. People are willing to do this.
Without objection.
Today, Senator Boxer, and this is what's kind of exciting to me, Mr. President, today Senator Boxer, Senator Inhofe, and Box and our staffs are working full-time. A lot of my colleagues in the Senate don't understand what's going on right now to get a bill done this year on a bipartisan basis. Think of that. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats working together. This is real stuff, okay? That's something that the leader's going to have to deal with in his office in terms of climate change and some of the other things that we've been talking about. And the good news is that the House of Representatives have been working on reauthorization for 2.5 years, and the House bill's been voted out of subcommittee. And the bill is ready to be pre-conferenced as soon as we get our work done. Unfortunately, and here's the thing that I'm really concerned about, we're still waiting to hear from the White House on their priorities. I met recently with Secretary Ray LaHood, and he indicated that we will be hearing from the administration soon. But the fact of the matter is the person we need to hear from is President Barack Obama. That's who we need to hear from. They say he's out in the stump talking about creating jobs. Here's an unbelievable opportunity. Here's a way to create real jobs and not borrow our money from our kids and grandkids to pay for it. On occasion, the president has said that he's opposed to any tax, including a gas tax on the, quote, middle class. I'd like to point out, Mr. President, that the Kerry-Lieberman bill, which he supports, includes an increase on the gas tax between 20 and 60 cents higher per gallon. It makes sense, you know. We'll support that, but not 10 cents for highways? It should be noted that all groups who want the reauthorization bill are willing to pay for it with a gas tax. And by the way, they're up in arms about the Kerry-Lieberman bill because they think it diverts funds away from the Highway Trust Fund. And I ask that a list of these groups be inserted in the record. In fact, they all sent a letter to the president saying, hey, this money, gas tax, is used for transportation and transit in this country. We don't want it used in the Kerry-Lieberman bill to raise a bunch of money for things that don't have anything to do with the concerns that we have.
Without objection.
Thank you. Passing a surface transportation bill would put a large segment of the economy to bed. Think about it. For 5 years, that part of our economies feels good about things. It helps states meet their infrastructure needs. It reduces greenhouse gases and provides certainty and stability to keep us on the road to recovery. Mr. President, you show me another bill that has bipartisan support from labor, manufacturing, business, truckers, and state and local groups. I doubt any other piece of legislation will get this kind of support before the election. You know what we need? We need a sorbet, a sorbet to bring people together. Let the American people know that we hear them. And you know something? We can get something done on a bipartisan basis, believe it or not. This legislation will create real jobs for Americans. It will be paid for and will put a major part of the economy to rest without adding to an already staggering deficit, and will eliminate the uncertainty about the future that's plaguing our country so we can move forward to provide brighter prospects for our children and grandchildren. I guess the most important guarantee is that the bill will give peace of mind to millions of workers in transportation and allied industries. They no longer will have to worry about unemployment compensation. They will have a job. They can pay their mortgage. They can buy a car. They can pay for their kids' education. And they can have the peace of mind that comes from having a job. Mr. President, I note the absence of a quorum.
Will the senator withhold? Senator from Georgia.
Is the Senate in a quorum call, Mr. President?
No.
No. Thank you, Mr. President. I will be brief, but I come